Hello, and welcome to the Comic Conspiracy, episode 31. This is your podcast for whatever week this is.
November 7th, 2011.
In some year that exists in our Lord Superman.
It's time-stamped on the thing, so you can look at...
Hallowed be thy name. My name is Ryan Higgins. I am here to talk about some comic books with my good friend...
Brock Sager.
I wasn't talking about you, Brock.
I know you weren't.
But you'll do.
Yeah,
you'll do.
I'll do. I always do.
You do. What is the thing that you do?
Why are we even coming up
I think
with
you
that?
read emails from fabulous listeners.
Oh, yes, we do that.
You want to read an email, Brock?
Yes, let's start out. Let's just jump right into this cesspool of a podcast. Oh, wait, that was supposed to be inner monologue. I'm sorry. Anyway, Mike T., he writes, "Hi, conspirators. I quit comics after college almost a decade ago and have decided..."
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry, Brock. I'm going to interrupt you for just one second.
Oh, really?
Here. Yeah, sorry. Sorry.
Really?
I know you don't like it when I interrupt you, but I didn't interrupt you. In the off chance this episode does not sound the way it normally sounds, it is because we were recording on another laptop. Brock's laptop took a crap, I believe is the technical term.
The technical term.
Late last week. Over the weekend we tried to repair it, but unfortunately we're not able to. So we're using a kind of even worse piece of crap laptop now. In the off chance you have like an extra $2 laying around in your PayPal account and you want to send it to us so we can buy Brock a new laptop so we can record the podcast, that would be greatly appreciated. It is not necessary, however, if you are interested. We were trying to get something a little bit better than what we had previously. Throwing some money at it, and Brock's going to hopefully pick up the rest because this is for a little personal use, but it's what
we
record the podcast on it every week.
I use it for the blog. And
if you go to the donate page on the geekbox.net, there is a donation button on there, and I think you can make the donations specifically. Just leave it on there and say it's for the Comic Conspiracy podcast, and I'll make sure Ryan Scott gives us his money because he's a jerk and wants to keep all his podcast millions for himself. So
that jerk.
Yeah.
I think you can put a note on the donation. So just put to the new Comic Conspiracy Laptop Fund.
We will do it.
All right.
So, no, sorry. Go back to your email.
Yeah, back to my email. So Mike T. continues in his email. He quit comics after college almost a decade ago and have decided to try and get back into it a little. Flash was one of my favorite superheroes. You obviously are like Mike right now, don't you?
I do.
Okay, just checking. But not Barry Allen.
It's fine.
I miss Wally West. Are there any other heroes you would like to see come back, such as Wally or Connor or Hawk? Also, what happened to Wonder Woman's pants? I thought the long pants seemed practical and a good update. At least they don't have stars. Thanks, guys.
I think that was Connor Hawk, not Connor and Hawk.
Oh, Connor Hawk.
Yeah,
okay.
Connor Hawk.
Sorry.
It's the young Green Arrow. Yeah, man. Heroes that are gone, characters that are gone that need to come back. I mean, Marvel and DC have so many characters, and they can't all have monthly books. It's just not possible. But yeah, there's so many good characters. I mean, Wally is one of the big ones in the New 52 that is not around. Wally and Donna Troy. Those are some of the big characters that people are like, where the hell are these characters? Obviously, the JSA, but we'll know more about them. Because there's a new...
Yeah, hopefully Green Lantern doesn't come back as a Green Lantern.
Oh, jeez, that was awful. Alan Scott's stupid lantern costume. It looked like a lantern. That was terrible. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, sometimes these characters go away. I mean, I'd love to see Jack Knight, Starman come back, or I'd love to see Hitman come back, but those are so tied to specific creators. Without the creators, okay. Or like Morpheus and Sandman.
Yeah.
I don't know that I'd want to see them back without the okay of the creators and actually their involvement. I'm a huge fan of the New Warriors, and I love to see the original New Warriors team come back. But that's they're half dead, and
I think your Speedball dislike currently is.
Well, I don't even think Speedball had been running around in Avengers Academy as one of the teachers. Since when they relaunched that title.
But he was Penance, he wasn't...
No, he was Speedball. No, he's back.
Oh, in the current one?
Yeah, in the current stuff. But I think he's even gone from that now, too. I read the last couple issues, and he wasn't in it. I think he took off after Fear Itself, so... Ugh. After the events in your favorite Fear Itself Homefront miniseries.
I still haven't finished it.
Oh, you didn't?
I didn't get the last issue, because the Speedball story is okay, but...
No, it's not.
like, compared to the other stories in Homefront, Speedwell's okay, but the rest of them just died. So.
Yeah, I read the first 2 issues, and I'm like, man, I can't even pretend to like this. I mean, I had literally every...
It was far better than the actual Fear Itself main title.
Well, yeah, nothing's that bad. I mean, I might have every appearance of Speedball up through, like, Civil War. Like, up until Civil War.
Up until he turns independent.
I think I might have, like, every appearance of that. You know what's funny? Actually, before we go on, I caught up on Thor, on last couple issues of Thor. The last issue totally explains everything about why Fear Itself happened. It explains who Odin's... that other guy is. Like, it gives all this backstory. It's like, wow, where was this in the main Fear Itself book?
Where was this Prelude book?
Right. Yeah. It's like, oh, this all makes sense now. Okay, why did you not have this in the real series? Such a disaster. But I don't know, Brock. Who's what's a Geos?
Geoforce is he almost died.
But what's his new 52 status? Do you know?
Actually, no, I don't know. I don't know where he is. When we last left him at the Outsiders, he was broken off from the Outsiders team and kind of like isolating himself from everybody. So, yeah. I mean, I'd love to see the Outsiders come back as a team. I thought that concept would have worked really well going into Morrison's Batman Incorporated, especially kind of having
part of it.
Alfred as the head of the Outsiders, like he was in the beginning of the last series. He was like the spearhead for that while Bruce was gone, and it seemed like that was a really good concept, but it kind of fell by the wayside. Like, Outsiders kind of just didn't get folded into the Incorporated window. Yeah. So,
2 of my favorite characters that I know have been around for a while now is Ralph and Sue Dibney, the Elongated Man. Yeah. After they died, or I guess they both died.
Yeah, they did.
They came back real briefly as like these ghost detectives, and then they
didn't really do anything with that.
Well, because the writer got taken out. It was on the original, the not most recent Outsiders, the previous Outsiders. So many times as they relaunched that title.
It was the early 2000s.
No. It was way later than that. It was more recent because they only died in 52.
So it was the last incarnation.
Yeah, but it was like when it was Batman and the Outsiders.
When it was first started, it was the Batman and the Outsiders, yeah.
They were in that real briefly, and then they just kind of disappeared, and you never saw them again, so that's unfortunate. I like those guys. Justice League International, obviously. They come back every now and again.
Well, they're back now, but I think with this first story
not
arc...
quite the same.
Yeah, with this first story arc, we're not getting the same feeling that we're getting from Justice League International. We're not even getting the same feeling that we got from Justice League Generation Lost.
Yeah, not at all.
Which I thought was a good... I mean, it had the old feeling of Justice League International, but it kind of was more up to date and just a really good read. So that and Brian Fitch's Batman on that cover had too long of a head for number 3. Yeah. Did you notice that? I was like,
I did not, but I heard you were kind of weirded out.
I was weirded out by it. I was like, what the hell is wrong with Batman's neck in this thing? It looks like a mini giraffe or some shit. So, I mean, there's a lot of characters out there that I think everybody's seen and have kind of gone away, that they like to see back. But, again, it's one of those things where, I mean, how long did it take for Aquaman to get back?
Well, he was never really gone. Yeah. He just didn't have his own title. So,
you know what I would like to see come back? I would like to see Superwoman.
Like Lois Lane's sister, Superwoman, from the Supergirl comic?
No, the Supergirl died in Infinite, right?
Huh?
Who died in Infinite Crisis? It was...
who died in Infinite Crisis?
Sorry, Crisis on Infinite Earths.
Supergirl died in Crisis. Supergirl and Flash. Yeah. Barry.
And then Supergirl came back, but whatever happened to Superwoman?
I mean, the original Superwoman, like Golden Age, Silver Age, was Lois Lane.
Oh, okay.
Then there was the Superwoman that was in the Crime Syndicate. But that's not there. The more recent Superwoman was Lois Lane's sister.
Yeah,
she was working
the
with
outfit.
Yeah, she was with the outfit.
I don't know. I'd like to actually see a Superwoman, not a Supergirl. Like, I'd like to see a Superwoman.
There's been like 4 of them.
I know, but we need
Power Girl's Superwoman for all intents and purposes.
True, this is true.
Yeah. All right. Any other characters?
I don't know. Is there any other characters we'd like to see come back?
Sure, there's tons. Oh man, just got a almost complete run of Dark Stars this morning. There are some people that never need to come back, but hey, Dark Stars.
Jeez.
So good.
Did that cross over with Millennium?
No, it's after that.
Yeah, it's after. I need to read that, by the way.
All right, got an email here from Richard. He says, I know you guys have said the first month sales were awesome after the reboot. He's talking about the new DC
the
52. We just started month 3. Are sales still awesome? Did you guys cut back on anything drastically? Is there anything that's just not moving as well as it did in month 1? My comic store seems to have quite a few left on the shelf now, where the number 1 seem to fly off the shelves. Specifically, yeah. The numbers are about where I expected them to be. Mm-hmm. I just was not expecting that giant month, that first month. Yeah. Sales for us are still about double what they were previous, even with fewer titles. Your Green Lanterns are selling 20% more than they were, which is still a huge jump.
Yeah.
But stuff like Animal Man, I'm pushing 10 times what I would have ordered, not only sold, ordered from another series. Swamp Thing, same thing. Justice League Dark, same thing. These are books that would not have sold. I would not have sold anywhere near these numbers previously. Even things like Men at War, which I'm only selling like 20 copies of, I wouldn't have even ordered like 5 previously.
You would have stuck to Vertigo numbers.
Well, no, even Vertigo numbers sell more than that. Like,
oh wow!
Like some of these books, like I would not have. I mean, maybe I would order like 10 copies of number 1, but I sold 50 copies of number 1 of Men at War.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, these numbers are still crazy. The reason you're still seeing a lot of number 3s on the shelf and number 2s specifically is because most stores are going to be have access to a returnability on these titles. So most stores over-ordered the number 2s and 3s. And by the time you hit the later parts of the 3s and 4 and on, you'll see more standardized numbers as these books come down.
Well, I know DC's pushing the returnability out for some of the books until April.
Well, they're doing it through April as long as you match your number 3 orders going forward.
Yeah.
That's just not really possible for myself and probably for most stores unless people cut their number 3s to the bone, which I did not. So, I mean, we will not have returnability probably from issue 4 and on because we won't be able to match that number. But still, yeah, it's still way, 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 way higher than previous. Will DC probably drop below Marvel? Because I know you wanted to talk a little bit about the sales chart.
Well, I mean, that's been the news for the past month, and it's been online, and everyone's talking about it. We haven't really just dove into it here, in depth. So
yeah, well, no, I mean, go right ahead. It's
because the numbers. I mean, the numbers for was it October? Is DC overtook Marvel on the market share and the unit?
Well, they didn't overtake. They didn't overtake Marvel. They blew past friggin' everything in the world. DC took, I believe, it was 51% of the market. As far as, I believe, is that to unit sale and dollar sale, it was a little bit closer, but ridiculous amount. DC shipped so many books because this includes not only all the number 2 issues, including Justice League number 2, but all the second prints of the number 1s. And the third prints. And in Justice League case, the fourth prints. So DC had one of the best months in modern comic history.
Well, and they had one of the best months with 52 titles.
Right.
56 titles.
Or so, plus Vertigo. Yeah, I mean, all those titles were in the top 100.
Yeah. And then, you look at Marvel, which is pumping out like double what,
a little less than that, but
but virtually double what they're doing, at least title-wise.
More,
you get, and Marvel's not even... they blew past Marvel, but of course, Marvel's sitting at $3.99 for most of their books. I mean, Spider Island, every issue's been $3.99. Amazing Spider-Man, normally when it was a beginning story arc, it bumped to $3.99, but then it went down to $2.99.
Yeah.
So, and then with, all the crossovers and all the titles, I mean, you're getting $3.99 books left and right for Marvel.
No, it's been totally crazy. DC, I don't think anyone could see that those numbers would be quite so high. Did a bunch of stores over order on their second prints? Yeah, probably. But the sales have still been really solid here. One of the big misconceptions is that comic books stop selling after Wednesday, and that's mostly, or I'm like after Friday or Saturday, I guess. That is mostly true. It's rare that I'll sell anywhere near the amount the following week as I do the first week, except for certain books. It happens very infrequently. But we do really good stocking books. I was talking to my rep at DC this morning. I'm like, I'm not cutting to the bone yet. I want 5-10 copies of all these books for the next few months because we want people to come in and be like, oh, well, you have 1 through 6. Let me grab all those. I'm actually pulled up the list here. Marvel had, let's see, Where was it? Yeah, 51% of sales.
The Marvel had or DC?
The DC had here. Yeah, where is it? DC had 42.47 of dollar, while Marvel had 39% of the dollar share. So those are huge numbers.
Well, it's also huge.
Huge
numbers. Like I said before, with the price point.
Yeah, here we go. It's dollar share for DC was 42.47. Marvel was 29.10. Unit share. So this is physical units shipped. DC had 50.97% and Marvel had 30.29%. But since people always wonder like how much of Marvel and DC dominate the industry. Number 3 is Image with 4.49 on the dollar and 3.98 on the unit share. So DC ships 12 comics for every one that Image ships. Yeah, that sounds about right. People always wonder, why Marvel and DC? Because they're 80% of the industry. Yeah. That's why. That's why this is.
They're producing. They produce more titles. If you look at, this.
Well, have you counted Image, Boom, and IDW's? Recently, they're pumping out a ton of stuff.
Yeah.
What's funny is, the 8th most, highest on the dollar in unit share is Eagle Moss Publications. They're the guys that do those lead figures. They sell more than Avatar and Viz. Viz, the company that produces, Naruto and Bleach and One Piece and, what in Japan sells 40 million copies in a weekend. Doesn't ship anything here. So it's ridiculous.
Well, we get one copy of that in as a special, and then we get like 5 or 7 of those lead figures.
Right.
So,
are the DC books going to retain the numbers they did for the number 1s or even the number 2s or even the number 3s? The answer is no. Those numbers will slip, but they are still way better than they were. And I think the audience for DC books, they're out there now. And I think we're going to see DC have some pretty solid numbers going forward.
Well, I've talked to a couple of people coming in, and they're leaning heavily more towards DC, and they used to read a lot of Marvel because they're just telling better stories and they're giving better product, and the price point, is a lot better for, them now than, with Marvel where, they don't really know what's going on.
Well, starting this week, we're getting the Avenging Spider-Man number 1 that has the digital code in it. Mm-hmm. It's going to be interesting to see how many people gravitate towards that, and if a lot of people do grab that digital code and use it to justify the $3.99 price point. DC is going to be watching very closely.
Yeah.
I don't know what their sales have been pretty decent on the digital Justice League issues because they have a copy that has a digital code and it's $1 more. It's $4.99. And they're moving Action Comics and a few other titles, I think Green Lantern and something else over to the same format. I think it's a good idea, but we sell about 10% of those what we sell with the regular issue, maybe less. Yeah. So, is this going to be something going forward that people are going to do? Obviously not that many people so far. So,
yeah, no, it's well, the other thing is with that is Avenging Spider-Man.
Yeah, Avenging Spider-Man.
With the Avenging Spider-Man, a lot of people I think are going to pick it up for Joe Mad because despite his lack of finishing stuff, people like his artwork.
Right.
I still like his artwork. So there's a sell point there, but again, it's $3.99. I get a digital code. Honestly, I'm not going to use the digital code.
Yeah, no.
So I'll pick up the book to see if it's good, but Loeb hasn't really been, hitting the mark.
Well, he's not doing Avenging Spider-Man.
Who is doing it?
Joe Mad's the artist.
Yeah, but who's writing
remember who's writing? Is it Carrie Andrews? I think that's who's doing it.
Oh, no, Loeb's on Wolverine 300.
Yeah, he's coming back for Wolverine 300, which is so bad. Yeah, it's where is it here? Hold on, I'm looking. I think it's Carrie Andrews. I don't think anyone cares though.
No, people care.
Everyone's there for
Joe Mad.
Joe Mad. Yeah.
We'll.
Oh no, I'm sorry. It's Zeb Wells, not Carrie Andrews. Zeb Wells.
Who's Zeb Wells?
He's done a lot of Spider-Man stuff in the past. Okay. Carrie Andrews is an artist, I think. I'm totally thinking of the wrong person. Well, anyway, Zeb Wells is fine, but it's Joe Mad his first billing. That's what people are there.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where that's going to sell just for Joe Mad. So the digital thing is kind of just Marvel throwing stuff out there, and
they're justifying the $3.99 price point.
Yeah, but honestly, justifying a $3.99 price point for me is not necessarily giving me a digital code. It doesn't apply to me. It's like I would prefer quality over getting a digital code.
Well, this is very apropos to what we're talking about,
Yes.
what our main subject matter was going to be about this week. There's actually something in this sales chart here that I do want to mention as we look at these amazing sales for the single-issue comic books. There is one part of the comic industry that has been hit really hard, especially the last couple months, but the last few years especially. That's the trade paperback department, graphic novels. The dollar share versus last month was down 7.5%. The unit share was down 11%. Versus October 2010, so a year ago, the dollar share was down almost 13%. The unit share was down just over 30%. The graphic novels and the trade paperback market, this is something that's going to be very tricky going forward, and they are just not selling the way people want them to sell. And that actually brings up what our main topic was going to be on this podcast, was the cancellation of a lot of trade paperbacks.
Yeah, and a lot of good trade paperbacks
well,
that we wanted to see.
Marvel has a huge list of stuff that, I mean, I personally, as a retailer, get this list pretty regularly. Marvel says, hey, here are the books we're taking out of print. It doesn't get brought up very often. I don't know why people don't ever talk about this, but they take stuff out of print all the time. DC in the last handful of weeks have taken out of print the Night Force hardcover, or I'm sorry, not taken out of print. They've just straight up canceled the Night Force hardcover, which was supposed to be out a little while ago.
Is it Night Force or Nightfall?
It's called Night Force. It's an old 70s horror comic.
Oh yeah,
that they solicited a hardcover for, but never released. They canceled the Weird Worlds trade paperback, which was an anthology that came out. And they also canceled the Volume 5 of Rebels, a personal favorite of myself and Brock, which Brock has been reading in trade paperback form.
Because I couldn't get the first few issues.
Right.
So I picked up the first trade, and I was like, okay, I'll stick with this in trade, and now I can't finish it unless I want to go back and find the single issues.
Yeah.
Which sucks.
There's been a couple other cancellations.
Suicide Squad Volume 2?
Well, this is something that was mentioned a little while ago and no one heard about, and I confirmed it with my rep at DC that, the Suicide Squad Volume 2 was not going to come out. We had the whole episode about it and the whole second volume, and that's been canceled. Marvel canceled a few miniseries before it even got out the door. There was a Victor Von Doom miniseries, and there was a Destroyer miniseries that by Fred Van Lent and Kyle Holtz. I like Kyle Holtz's art normally, so specifically what's happening. So here's kind of let's do this all. Let's do a little origin here of the trade paperback market in comic books so people know where we're coming from. Trade paperbacks are a fairly modern thing. It's when they take a collection of comics and put them into one book. This is something that was very rare until the early 2000s. Marvel and DC would collect stuff. You had the old Origin of Marvel and the Son of Origins, the old collections where they would collect first issues, and DC collect Dark Knight and Watchmen and Sandman, but there were very few things that were collected. It tended to be the cream of the crop, the best of the best.
Yeah.
Well, they realized that more people wanted these collected editions, so they started doing more and more and more. Marvel, by the time Marvel started in to really do it in the late 90s, early 2000s, they basically started publishing everything in trade paperback.
Yeah.
The problem with this is that 90% of everything is crap and probably never should have been collected in the first place. If I'm ordering 3 or 4 copies of some bullshit miniseries, why am I going to order a trade paperback for this series? Unless it's some huge cult hit that no one cares, or that people care about 10 years later because, oh, hey, Grant Morrison and Mark Miller, they wrote, what the heck is that, Skull Kill Crew, and this book was a nothing book back then, but now, oh, hey, these are names. I mean, I get that. But for why a lot of these books exist in trade paperback, I never understood. I always said, look, why would they collect the series in trade and spend more money if the book doesn't sell in single issues? If you don't support the single issues, you're not going to get a trade. But if you only want to read in the trade, you're not going to get it because it's not going to come out because no one's buying the single issues.
Well, it's
horrible catch-22.
It's a catch-22 where you're fucked if you do, fucked if you don't. And the thing is with Rebels being canceled at number 5, that's the last volume for the series.
Was it going to be the last one?
That was going to be the last one.
That went through 26 or 27 or
we went through
whatever
23.
Oh, okay.
So that was going to finish off this last series of the Rebels, which people like myself who were only reading it in trade, right, are now can't finish it. But the thing is I can bring it to somebody's attention, but you got to go find these issues. You can buy the first 4 in trade, but you got to go track down all of these back issues to read the tail end of it. And I think that, especially with like newer books, that's not something that you want to do, because if you're already doing the series, you're already finishing off the series, just finish off the trade series.
Well,
I mean, like Hitman had, 2 volumes left to go, and they canceled it?
Like 2 or 3, yeah.
So,
but those are finally coming out now.
Yeah.
But here's my takeaway from this, right? This would be a little contentious statement here, but the trade paperback market has really destroyed a huge chunk of the comic book market that's irreversible at this point. Yeah. Because I see this happen so often, and people say, oh, no, it's not like that, but it is. When people say they're waiting for the trade, what that means is they don't want the book. Most people that want the books buy them when they come out. The only time people buy trade paperbacks are after the fact. Very few people buy trade paperbacks of stuff that just came out. Almost all my sales for trades are of older material. What happens is the books are brand new. They're still on the shelf. People that bought them bought the single issues. People that want them collected, they're not buying them from comic book stores, first of all. I understand they're probably buying from Amazon, so that's fine. But the sales number there, as we see every year from Brian Hibbs' sales chart on the comic industry, when it comes to the what is it called, the big box store in the Barnes and Noble and Borders sales chart, the book scan report. That's what it's called, book scan. These books don't sell. Marvel sells almost no trade paperbacks in the non-direct market to the bookstore market in Amazon. They sell very few. So it's no wonder that these books aren't coming out in trade paperback format. Does it suck that Rebels isn't being collected? Yeah. But honestly, it never should have been collected in the first place. That's the problem. There's no reason for a lot of these books to exist in trade paperback, because if you're only selling a handful of copies, like, it's cool that I'm selling 5 or 6 copies of Rebels, but I would take Rebels away if it meant 10 other series weren't being collected.
Yeah.
Because these books don't make them any money. What sells best in trade paperback, hey, what a surprise, is what sells best in single issue format. Now, there are exceptions. Walking Dead, Fables, I'll give you that. There are exceptions. But the exception is there are so few ongoing series where the trade paperbacks sell to that degree that, there's almost no reason.
Yeah.
The Vertigo, Image, these guys have made a mark for themselves in the industry as people following the collected editions. So you keep that. But no one really cares about Superman and Batman ongoing series collected. Now, like Grant Morrison, sure. But you don't need to collect the 3-issue fill-in arc.
No.
Is that unfair? I mean, maybe. You have to do it one of 2 ways. You either collect very little, or you collect absolutely everything and leave it in print. Because if the rate at which these books go out of print, it's like, why even print them in the first place?
Yeah.
If you take volume 1 and 2 out of print of Ultimate Spider-Man, I'm going to throw every other volume away. But no one buys the early volumes of the new stuff because everyone's still buying the single issues.
Yeah.
They just bought them. So it's like, it's such a horrible, horrible back and forth, and no one knows what to do. And I think it's unfortunate because there's the mindset that everything will be collected, and so no one buys a single issue. So by the time the trade comes out, people have already moved on to new material, and they're not buying the trade.
Yeah. Well, on the flip side of that, there's also those people that are trade readers, straight. Like, they're trade readers. Like, they don't do the single issues, but they follow in the trades, because sometimes it's easier to pick, if you only read like 4 titles, sometimes it's easier just to, pick up the trade when it comes out. Income-wise, it's cost beneficial for you to wait for that collected edition,
But there are so few people that do that, which is obvious by the sales of the trades.
Well, yeah. But then you also have the thing like where you have, like Rebels, it's already released, right? They have 4 trades. Well, now you're going to cancel the 5th one. So you've already kind of shot the retailers in the foot, because if you have them, you're like, yeah, these are great, but now you have to get the single issues to finish this if you like it. So it kind of makes it exceedingly difficult to sell what you have. You see what I'm saying? Whereas if it was, something, like I have always said, why don't they do more of a pay and print kind of deal?
Because there's no profit margin for them, and it's too expensive.
Well, you never know.
Well, I'll tell you what. I'll tell you the other reason why this is happening now. The amount of space it takes to print, stock, ship, receive, and return when it comes to the big box stores. Trade paperbacks, you could sell a digital comic and it's pure profit.
Yeah.
The push is going to be, hey kids, you missed the first 12 issues, get on your iPad and download them.
Yeah.
Don't buy it in trade paper. No trade exists for this book because there's extremely little risk and the reward is great. Where a trade, it's going to be remaindered after 6 months. They're going to dump them in a pallet. Stores are going to have them sitting on their shelves and thrown out. I wish I sold more trades. I tell people this constantly. Trades only make up about 20 or 30% of my business. There are stores that I know that are like 80% trade paperbacks. And I'm like, that's great, but I don't see how you can sustain this. All the good stories have been collected and recollected and recollected and recollected. People already have Dark Knight and Watchmen. Sales on those have really dropped off the last handful of years. What's going to happen here on out is the new books, there's not an interest in trade paperbacks of them. Now, when the new 52 stuff comes out in trade, it'll be interesting because about the top 10 titles will sell really well and all the rest won't sell at all. I'll stock one of each on those other ones. I'll stock 10 copies of Justice League. I'll stock 5 copies on all the Green Lanterns, and those will sell whatever they end up being. Batgirl will sell. Detective Comics will sell. But, the rank and file, the run-of-the-mill story arcs, so few of them are going to sell in collected format because the interest just isn't there for them. And I really think the companies are going to start saying, hey, no trades, we're getting rid of all these trades, but here's the digital comic version. Buy this instead. And I think that's where we're headed.
Well, Bob Wayne said in an interview with CBR News, he's like, there are those readers who we think are still out there who are waiting for the trade, or that's their preferred way of experience a comic book story. And that's true. There are people out there that do that. And he continues to say, and we'll have a new wave of excitement and enthusiasm as the book trade comes online. It's kind of, to me, it's almost as if they're, like you just said, they're going to force the market towards digital by not having those trades. And the thing is the reason why sales on Watchmen and Dark Knight and all that have leveled out is because now we're sitting at a level where there's enough of these books out there that people are letting people borrow them to read. But you're always constantly going to have new readership come up. It might not be huge numbers, right, but you're going to have that baseline.
Watchmen leveled out after the movie because basically everyone in the world that wanted a copy bought a copy because the push during the movie was so big. And while Dark Knight was not quite the same, we're moving away from Dark Knight being a relevant comic anymore, especially with more Frank Miller's more recent work, which is putting off a lot of people. It's basically no one cares anymore about Frank Miller. So his relevance is slowly going away for his older titles. They still sell. I'm not trying to say they don't sell. They still sell well, but nothing like they used to. Watchmen and Dark Knight were literally my best-selling comics every single year, and then about 2005, 2006, those numbers started to just drop down, and now I'll sell a copy of Watchmen every couple months or something, but it used to be 10, 20, 30 a year.
I think what it is, I think like you said, if they're going to go full, they either need to do it fully or they need to not do, or they need to be selective, but you can't kind of do it halfway. Whereas you can't take a series like Rebels and cancel it, because that's like saying 100 bullets. We're not going to print the last volume.
That's it, and stuff like that has happened. Yeah. There was some talk. I don't know where I read this. It might have been Bleeding Cool. I don't remember where it was. But the president of Marvel, just still worked for Disney. He was like, we're not going to have anything more than the last couple volumes in print. So does that mean, 25 volumes of Ultimate Spider-Man is going to go out of print? Not that I sell a lot of them anyway, but that's a long-running series that now is suddenly going to not be available. Do you only care about the most recent stuff? And if that's the case, that's fine. Yeah. Because if you're only going to say we're only going to keep stuff from the last 5 years in print, that at least these people know.
Well, there's a time window. That's the same thing with Disney. Disney's has their 7-year rule where it's released for about 6 months, and you can get it within the 6 months. If you don't get it in the 6 months, it's gone.
I heard the Harry Potter movies are going in the vault.
Oh, I don't doubt it.
Yeah. There's probably a lot of copies sitting out there. But, and I'm looking at my shelf here of, a run of JSA, a lot of the Grant Morrison, a lot of the Jeff Johns JSA run. And, I'm wondering, okay, while this may not be currently relevant, this is still something that I sell occasionally. You know, are these going to start going out of print? Are they going to get replaced by $75 omnibus editions that are not worth $75? Me and Brock have had numerous conversations off the air about the Flash omnibus, the DC published.
I want to buy it, but it's $75. It's
beautiful book, twice as much than it needs to be. I actually set it side by side with the Matt Fraction Invincible Iron Man collection, which is the hardcover, the very first hardcover. They're the exact same size. Iron Man's 40, Flash is 75. I think they actually canceled that Hawkman one, the Flash Hawkman one, because like, who the hell is going to buy this for this price point? Yeah, I mean, the trade paperback market, it's such a weird position right now because you have hardcovers followed by soft covers, followed by absolutes, followed by like you need less trade paperbacks. Not everything needs to be collected. You don't need these bullshit miniseries collected. No one's going to buy them.
Well, and
get to clutter off the shelf. This is Marvel and DC both. DC's been just as bad. I mean, if you want to collect everything, that's fine, but you have to collect everything, and you have to put the money behind it, and you have to promote it, and you have to keep them in print. If you're going to imagine if half the Twilight books were out of print, or half the Harry Potter books were out of print. I mean, I'm not saying it's equivalent because that'd be like half of like the Jeff Johns, you know, or Green Lantern being out of print, and that's clearly not the case. But Bendis' Ultimate Spider-Man, let's use that as an example. That he's a very popular creator that was a very popular comic. If these start going out of print, you know, what's safe? Nothing.
Yeah. Well, and it's one of those things where it's like, you know, I read in trade, and some of the stuff I read in trade. Like, I read Invincible in trade. I read Walking Dead in trade. I read Scalped in trade. You know, I read a couple titles in trade, but a couple titles I've transferred from trade to reading single issues like Fables and DMZ. You know, I've made the jump because, you know, it's one of those things.
A lot of people do.
And yeah, and the thing is I still get the trades. Like, I still pick up, I don't pick it up right when it comes out, but I'll pick up that DMZ trade and I'll pick up that Fables trade.
Well, when it comes to trade paperbacks for me, much like DVDs, I buy the stuff I really like. Everything I own in trade paperback, with almost out exception, I've already read. I buy the collected edition because I'm such a big fan of it that I want an easily accessible, nice collected edition. I know a lot of people that buy every DVD that comes out, or all these cheap budget DVDs. It's only $5. I want to watch it. You know, I have a hard time. I have a hard time understanding people throwing $20, $30 down on a trade that they haven't read. I mean, unless it's really strongly recommended. Yeah. But like, who the hell is going to recommend? Like, I'm just looking on here. You know, like I'm looking at Green Arrow Volume 5 on the shelf right here. It's the only one I think I could still get from the Kevin Smith and Beyond Green Arrow run. You know, it's the last one I've got sitting here. Like, you know, at what point do these things need to be collected? Should the volume 1s be collected and that's it? Or should the first couple? Should, like, only the top selling get collected?
Well, I think it goes kind of back to what you're saying. Like, we get the hardcover, then the softcover, then the absolute, blah, 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 blah. It's a good format, but it's like, if it's a popular, well-selling title, right, like Green Lantern, hardcover, then the softcover comes out, right? And then down the road, because of its sales, if it hits that mark, then you release the absolute editions. Right? Whereas Rebels never hit hardcover. Rebels went straight to softcover.
That's smart because Marvel would have put it out in a premier hardcover first.
But that's the thing is if you're going to go full bore, right, with the soft covers, then go full bore with the soft covers so that there is that run and say, you know what, if once it hits that 5-year mark or once it hits that certain time frame, that's when it goes out of print. But a lot of times it's like people are like, oh, well, it's going out. I mean, a book could go out of print the next day.
I mean, there have been some Marvel and DC title trades, but they went out of print basically right after they were published.
Yeah, and
there's a lot of.
And that's the thing is it makes it very difficult. And I think that's part of the reason why the trade market kind of has this dark cloud over it. Also, is because a lot of people don't know what's going to be, you know, released or what's going to be collected.
Well, we're hitting the problem. We also long ago hit the problem that manga had, where there's literally not enough shelf space to carry these books.
Exactly.
These books are so long running, both American comics and manga. Some of these books they take up so much shelf space. And I mean, I order about 90% of the DC trades. I order about 40% of the Marvel trades. Yeah. Marvel just doesn't sell well on trade paperback here. But now that we're getting more sales in the DC single issues, I find some of the DC trades have started to kind of taper off. So I think the whole thing is just, it's such a really hard place that the entire trade market finds itself. And the growth is going to be in single issues and the digital comics, and I just don't see the trade market being the dominant force it was for the first 5 or 6 years of the last decade. So,
and I think for me partially, as looking at like the Vertigo wall where we sell through so many of those really great titles, where we look, at the DC wall where we sell through not necessarily everything, but somebody picking up the new Green Lantern might go, well, where does this all come from? You have to pick up the Johns run. Then they go and they pick up the Johns run and read everything prior. Right. And it's one of those things also, like you were talking to the rep about, where was issue 701 and 702? About what trade was that in?
Yeah.
Right. So it's like you have this constant flow of stuff where it's like, good selling titles, you need to have that hardcover. Really good selling titles for some of them. Like Green Lantern, like Action Comics. Action Comics doesn't necessarily need the hardcover.
Yeah.
Right? Batman doesn't necessarily need the hardcover. These series have been going on so long and you don't volumize them anyway. It's like, it's almost as if you should just kind of do softs first.
Well, the hardcover, I think the hardcover format should stay more for single volume collections. Your Crisis on Infinite Earths, your Infinite Crisis, your Marvel Secret Wars, one volume books as one nice hardcover, oversized. When you start to get
X-Ting Agenda for X-Men.
Vertigo's been doing their double-sized hardcovers and some of their single-sized hardcovers. Honestly, sales on those have not been as good as I would have hoped because the soft covers are such perennial sellers. The hardcovers are like, well, these are nicer, but
Well, I think like a problem with the Preacher hardcovers that I found is
they're not different enough from the soft covers. They're not
different enough, and they actually make it harder to read the series because the trades, the 9-volume trade is actually broken up into actual story arcs and is broken up really nicely. But when you combine two together, those hardcovers kind of get a little choppy.
Right.
And so I think that, I get them both. I have them both, I think,
Yeah.
But I also have a softcover collection of Sandman and then an absolute collection of Sandman.
Right.
But the absolute Sandman, it's oversized, it's bigger, it's a nicer look to the book. It's definitely a library kind of feel for the collector in you that wants to keep it.
Librarian.
It's the librarian in all of us.
Library.
But yeah, I think that, just looking here, I think it's difficult, especially with like Justice League, the Morrison stuff, where they started to redo the trade so that they look nicer instead of this.
That's fine.
This stuff like that. But Justice League sells. Like, it might not sell constantly or on a constant basis, but you're going to get that guy that comes in and picks up number 1 and goes, hey, I like this. I need volume 2, which is what happens a lot of times with the, Preacher. And we keep going back to Vertigo. Vertigo's trade market is solid.
Yeah.
So how do you take Vertigo's trade kind of, what's the word I'm looking for, mold or whatever, that mold, and apply it to the DCU or the Marvel universe where, we don't necessarily...
You can't. That's the problem. Because they're finite stories.
This is true.
Generally speaking.
But, it's... I don't know.
I think that's enough trade paperback.
Trade paperback talk. Bring Rebels back, DC.
So if you like
Volume 5.
If you like your comic books, support the single issues, as it is going to be very interesting over the course of the next year or two, as I think you're going to see a lot less stuff solicited in trade paperback. I think that's just where we're headed.
Well, and the flip side I think we haven't even looked at is what about those people that buy the digital comic single and end up wanting to have a physical trade?
They can't get it either.
But that's the thing is that might be, like you said, you collect everything you like in trade. You might not read it, but you collect it in trade because you want to have a nice, easy access collection.
Sure.
That could be something that the digital market comes out of this, is where they want the physical trade after buying the digital version.
But I have a feeling it's going to be the same things that are already going to be printed in trade.
So pay to print. That's all I'm saying.
Difficult, very difficult to do from a big main company source. Pay to print works for the small guys because they basically make nothing off of it. I don't think Marvel and DC or Warner and Disney can really do that and be profitable.
Warner Brothers is doing it with their TV shows on the DVD.
But the price point is so high. Okay, you can get your Rebels trade. It's going to be $30.
Mm-hmm.
this is the other option. Are you willing to pay $30 for a 5-issue trade paperback?
No.
There you go.
But that's the thing is what are you printing it on? Are you printing on this nice glossy bullshit paper that I don't need, or are you printing on newspaper print?
As discussed many times, newspaper print is not anywhere cheaper. In fact, it's more expensive than that because paper printing is not set up to do books on newsprint. So it makes no price difference.
So the difference between like the Fables paper and the glossy paper on Green Lantern, it's cheaper for the Green Lantern?
It's not that it's cheaper. It's that paper is just used. That's not news. I mean, first of all, it's not newsprint.
Oh, well, what is that print?
I mean, nothing uses news. Even newspapers barely use newsprint anymore. It's still mostly use a different type of material than the old material. But yeah, I mean, I don't know why some of the Fable or why some of the Vertigo trades are printed on different paper, but it's no cheaper than this stuff. So.
But you get more. That's the weird thing.
They are. The paper is thicker. You do not get more. So if you look at the new Fables or the new Preacher trades, they're about half the size, same page count, because the paper is thinner.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. That's why those Fables trades are a little fat. When they put those into the nicer collections with the shinier paper, it's because it's thinner paper. So because you can get that gloss on it. So there you go.
So catch 22, people.
Yep. I've been looking around for, Brock's been rambling. I've been looking around for pick of the week, and I have absolutely nothing, so I'm going to give it off to Brock here. I have not read a comic book in like a week and a half. Actually, no. You know what? No, I got a pick for you. Okay. And Brock, I'm going to shock you, okay?
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for this one.
So I read the last issue of Uncanny X-Men, the very last issue that they did.
Yeah, the
whatever
kind
it was.
Of remembrance issue.
And then I read the what was it? The X-Men, the little one-shot that came out. I can't remember what the hell it was called now.
Regenesis?
It was a Regenesis. No, it was after the Schism stuff. It was that little one-shot that came out.
The weird one with the Emma Frost, like we're talking in our minds, but we can beat each other up, but we're not actually beating each other up. Is that the one shot you're talking about?
Tell us your pick for a second. I'm going to go find this comic.
I don't even know what my pick is.
Okay, well, entertain the crowd for a minute.
No, okay. So, my pick of the week, I think I'm going to go with the Batman Time and the Batman. That's the one we were talking about earlier that collects 701 and 702 of Batman, which are...
Well, it's like 700 through 703.
Yeah, it's like 700 through 703, which are...
It's the Final Crisis.
Which basically explain, kind of helps you... The same thing you said with Fear itself, where it's this Thor issue explains everything. Those Batman issues really help explain a lot of stuff, and it's really, really good, and I really enjoyed those issues. It's only available in hardcover right now, correct?
Yeah.
Hopefully it'll be coming out in soft, unless they've canceled that solicitation. So, but yeah, Batman Time and the Batman. So, I really enjoy the X-Men Regenesis. Is that what you're looking at?
Yeah, so,
You're really going to... This is your pick?
Well, so here's the thing. What they've done with the X-Men books, again, story-wise, I think it's actually been okay.
Yeah, I mean, it hasn't been half... I mean, it's... The stuff when they go out into space was kind of dumb this time, but...
plot has been okay. The story, I guess, has been bad.
Yeah.
Schism was pretty awful. That last issue of Schism was
horrible.
Was pretty bad.
It was horrible.
But I'll actually give it this. Kieran Gillen, I actually like him. He's a pretty decent writer. I like him more than Matt Fraction, and I guess I like him more than Jason Aaron too, because I haven't read Uncanny #1, the relaunch issue yet, but I actually did read Uncanny 544 and the X-Men Regenesis #1, both written by Kieran Gillen. Kind of shows the big split between Wolverine and Cyclops and the dismantling of the team. And Uncanny 544 was sort of like a kind of remembrance issue where he's sort of going through interesting little bit with Mr. Sinister in it, where it's like he's kind of being reborn. So I'm not sure. That
stuff carries through to Uncanny X-Men #1.
Okay, yeah, I haven't read that yet. So,
but even reading that, I mean, we're not going to finish your thing. Then.
Well, I was going to say, it's actually okay. I like this better than, this has been the better of the X-Men books recently. I mean, I try to keep up on all of them, and like I said, Schism was just so awful. But these were actually okay. I kind of like the breakdown of all the characters. I thought there was a weird, in the Regenesis #1, there's this weird, like caveman fighting.
No, what they're doing is Emma Frost is creating a psychological plane that they can actually sit there and talk and let their aggressions out and all that stuff. That's what she's doing.
They don't say. I mean,
they don't say. That's what she does.
No, I think it's just like allegory. I think it's just like
caveman fighting.
I mean, I think it's just you just see like this visual representation of the split between the group here. I don't think it's like this is actually happening or this is like some projection. I think this is just like a comparison between here's what's going on in the real world, and it's like, oh,
Did you bump your head?
No. Like, there's nothing in here that says this is like some projection of Emma Frost.
No. I'm not talking about projection. I mean, I could be completely wrong. I'm asking if you bumped your head. You're holding X-Men books and recommending them. I'm freaking out right now.
I have not told. Like I said, I think the overall plot of the X-Men books has been pretty interesting. I just think a lot of the execution has been really garbage.
Oh, no.
That's why I actually surprised how much I like these issues. And like I said, Kieran Gillen, I actually do like as a writer, and I think he takes some of the quirkiness of Matt Fraction's run, but he has improved it on a writing style. And that Regenesis #1, I thought actually was pretty kind of fun little story of, Scott and Wolverine kind of picking the teams. So, and I liked it much better than I was expecting. So,
well, did you read the Fear Itself issues for Uncanny?
I read. I think there's maybe 2 or 3 issues I didn't read because I think I read the very first one where Juggernaut or where Colossus becomes Juggernaut, and I'm like, this is
not the first one. That's like the last one.
Well, when the whole thing's being set up, I'm like, this is ridiculous. I think I may have missed an issue or 2 in there somewhere.
Yeah, that's probably why you're not too pissed off with Regenesis and that last.
No, like I said, these 2 specific issues I actually did really enjoy. So
yeah, they weren't. I didn't really enjoy them, to be honest. I mean, the Remembrance one was kind of. I took it as an FU to all the people who've been reading it for 500 and some odd issues.
I mean, what I really liked about it is the very first page. It's one of the opening pages of Uncanny X-Men #1. It's actually the very opening page of X-Men #1, I should say, from the 1960s. But they have new text.
Yeah.
And it's just like, here comes Cyclops. He's like, oh, Jean's dead, sir. Now Cyclops is in charge. Iceman is leaving with Wolverine. The Angel is fighting X-Force. And so it just kind of funny, like they take the old art style and then put in like their modern day story in it. So that was pretty fun.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah,
that's our picks for the week.
Couldn't really get behind it.
Yeah, I know. That's fine. You're just a hater, Brock. It's
no,
all right.
I'm playing taps for X-Men.
I'm just a Marvel apologist.
I just can't.
You know me and my mountain of Marvel books that I absolutely love on a weekly basis.
Oh, that you take home?
I do.
Which mine are actually probably going to get cut because Fear Itself.
Well, Fear Itself is over. Like, I'm so excited to read non-Fear Itself tie-in books.
Well, I'm excited to read non-Fear Itself title books too, but I'm done with X-Men, so there goes a huge chunk because I'm not going to be getting any X books.
Yeah, the relaunch.
And
give you that ability to cut the tie.
Cut the ties like snip. I'm gone.
Yeah.
But no, what was it? Like Captain America, where his shield's cracked, and the current Brubaker. Which is after it hasn't been cracked at all.
Yeah.
And he specifically said he didn't want it buffed out because it adds character. So it's like, all right, I'm reading a book that,
Just pretend Fear Itself never happened.
I can't undo Fear Itself. Just like I can't undo Schism.
They've already undone Fear Itself, trust me.
I know.
Not one element of Fear Itself is carrying over into any other book. Marvel's already forgotten about it,
except for Nomad 2, right? Oh, I mean Winter Soldier.
But I mean, sure. So Winter Soldier. Okay, so we got.
Aren't we gonna have a new Thor?
He got Peter Parkered. Whatever.
Aren't we gonna have like a new Thor?
Yeah, Thor will be back in 2 months. Don't worry. Gee, I wonder if Thor will be back in time for the new book coming out by Brian Michael Bendis that has the entire Avengers team except for Thor, but there's a giant hole in the piece of artwork that Thor could very easily fit into. Yeah, don't worry. Thor will be back.
I'm not worried because I'm probably not gonna read it.
Yeah.
Become a DC whore.
All right. We're going to go ahead and wrap this episode up.
We can't.
Why?
We can't wrap this episode up yet. You completely and utterly forgot.
What's that? Apparently I forgot. Brock's showing me something. Suicide Squad. Oh, hey, Suicide Squad from the ashes. Yes, our Suicide Squad. What announce this? I don't have it here. We're just gonna. We'll have to announce this next week. Yeah,
Dude, seriously?
We've run out of time. We're running out of time.
We're never running it, dude.
We'll announce this
Dude, we
next
can't do that to these people. They've been waiting over a month.
We've got a winner picked. I don't have all the info here. We're going to announce this next week. So don't worry. Don't worry about it. It's fine. It's fine. Don't worry about it. All right.
So sorry, guys. You're gonna have to wait a week for
that's fine. They don't care. They don't care. No one cares. So,
seriously?
Yeah.
People care about this podcast whether you like it or not.
I want to get out of here.
All right, outro time.
If you have any questions, you can shoot us an email at
Did that screw you up?
thecomiconspiracy@geekbox.net. You can also go to www.geekbox.net to find this episode and all our previous episodes of this podcast and other podcasts, including The Geek Box, which is a podcast I'm on and Brock's on every decade, apparently, and The Comedy Button, our brand new comedy podcast.
Bastard cousin of a podcast.
Rambling nonsense of...
I haven't watched it.
Weird. It's an audio podcast. So
I thought they do a video thing,
you don't watch it. They are doing video stuff soon. They are starting with the audio to just get material out there. Yeah, you can, I guess that's it. You can go to digital.comicsconspiracy.biz and you can buy digital comics from us, because that's awesome. Or you can buy physical comics from us and our store in Sunnyvale. And you can find all that at comicsconspiracy.biz. Brock had a...
And you can also visit www.conspiratorbrock.com.
Nice. Now, did you spell that wrong or anything? Or
no,
it's all spelled properly.
Conspiratorbrock.com is spelled correctly.
Cool.
That's the new URL for the blog.
Nice.
So you can still use conspiratorbrock.blogspot.com if you want, but you'll just get redirected.
Cool.
So you can now visit me finally. So
a real website.
I know. Also, don't forget, if you want to help us with the Comic Conspiracy Laptop Fund, please donate at the Geek Box. Click that donate button and give us 2 cents. We don't care. 2 cents money, we'll take it. I'd also like to say there's only a few hours left to help my buddy out with his designs.
So you're not going to hear this by the time it's done. So congratulations. A few hours?
No, it's like 24 hours or something. So they'll hear it by tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
And if if it's time's up. But, while you designs, check it out, conspiratorbrock.com.
Cool.
Man, that's so much faster to say. It's nice.
.blogspot.com. All right. We're going to go ahead and hit stop. We will talk to everyone next week.